The marathon was the icing on the cake last month. That was pretty fun.
I coached Linda, and there was a big block of that marathon, like 90 minutes of it, 2 hours of it, where she was just clocking off 7:30, 7:20s, just clicking away like a machine. Yeah, it was downhill, but you were cruising, and based on your heart rate and data, and I don't expect you to leave it all out there, but you left something on the table. I mean, I think you cruised through it.
I think that had it not been 18 degrees at the start, had I not taken the first bus and stood there for an hour and a half, and my feet were like ice blocks, I think the first 5 or so miles would have been faster. I mean, I know that I could have really run down that hill much faster, but the first 5 miles I spent warming up. They were, I couldn't take any of the hills. I wasn't warmed up enough. So the conditions would have to be perfect. I talked to one woman who's done several of these downhill marathons with this organization, and she said it's always freezing cold at the start. So I'm not sure that I can get perfection, but I'm still smiling about it. I'm still pretty happy.
Yeah.
It really was the icing on the cake.
Yeah, you certainly weren't sandbagging, but you weren't coming and collapsing at the finish with like a 3:30 marathon or something. Because I think on that course, under ideal conditions, you could have come close to that sort of level of running.
Time will tell. That also was my first fasted marathon. You gave me the courage to do it on.
Oh, I forgot that detail.
Yeah, I've always gotten up really early and eaten a big breakfast before marathons, and I didn't. I had half a cup of coffee 3 hours before it started. There was a little bit of chocolate sitting on the counter, so I ate a square of it because it looked good with coffee. But that was still 3 hours before the start of the marathon. And 15 minutes before the start, I took salt water, probably 8 ounces of water, a Vespa, got back in the porta potty line because you always do that before a marathon. And I just took off, and I did it with confidence because you had me do my training runs. And
yeah, trust the system. I mean, you did it.
I did fine.
Yeah, you did eat well in the days leading up to the race.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I think I told you about the square of chocolate after dinner the night before, but that's why the chocolate was still sitting on the counter.
But this is part of the journey, is to get rid of the stress and really live and enjoy life, and eating food is part of that. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
but eating good food is part of it too. I mean, it's so much more satisfying to eat a really good quality piece of beef and some roasted potatoes and cooked veggies the night before a marathon than trying to carb load, like we used to call it. Everything's happier. I'm happier. My gut's happier. And obviously I run better.
Yeah. And once you trusted the system that your body, between the Vespa, the training, and the fat on your body, it would deliver, and it did. Now, how many calories did you take in? Besides, maybe, did you take 1 or 2 Vespas during the race and then some bit of honeys?
Well, I took the one at the beginning and then one in the middle, and then I couldn't find my CV, so I was wasting too much time looking for it. So I took some noon water and kept going. So 2 Vespas and maybe 5 bit of honeys.
So maybe like less than 150 calories.
Yeah. And that was a 2,000 calorie project. So I was doing the math today while I was out running. And, even if I'm small, even if I have 800 calories of glycogen in me somewhere, I over tapped that. So clearly I was burning fat. Otherwise I could have never finished. And I finished well.
Yeah.
I ran that whole marathon on carbs. I didn't take enough in. I couldn't have had enough stored. And while the last few miles, my legs were not all that happy with that continuing downhill, the rest of me felt fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I did not feel like I'd left it all out there.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, my friend who was meeting me at the finish was watching people come across the finish line and passing out and barfing. And the thought that went through her head is, oh no, I have Tim's phone number. Like, what if she needs medical care? And she said, you come across the line, you
do not resuscitate. Do not resuscitate.
Yeah. And she said, you just kept walking. You got your water. I think I got a bag of potato chips. They look really good. Yeah. And I just kept walking until I found her. And then we got to talking. But she said, you just walked from the finish line to the gate, and She said, all my worry was for nothing. And then she was surprised at how long it was before I really got hungry. It was a good couple of hours when I said, okay, I'm ready to eat.
Yep, I think we talked on the phone when you were getting ready to have breakfast.
Yeah, we were headed out to breakfast. I was showered. I'd had my Epsom salt bath. I had that bag of potato chips, but they were so good.
Well, yeah, the reason you had them is because you probably need a little salt.
Well, and they were sitting there and they had all the choices and they looked good.
Yep. And that's part of the fun of this is on race day, you can use what you like, use what you know works, and use what's available.
And I still swear those Bitter Honeys are just for the taste. I mean, I know they have a few calories in them, and you tell me physiologically it makes sense, but honestly, you're out there running with your mouth open and things taste so good anymore, and you stick that little bit of honey in there, and you're like, that's really yummy.
Yeah, I think they help me when I'm climbing. I'll take a couple. I need to take like 2 or 3 all at once, and before a climb, and I think they give me a little bit of push. We're talking about just a tiny bit goes a long ways, right?
Yeah. And whether it's physiologic or between the ears really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. I don't care if it's anecdotal, as long as it works.
Right? Proof's in the pudding.
Right. Now, well, you mentioned something about no carbs. And one of the things we want to talk about is the beauty of OFM is fat metabolism is amazingly complex. We're not just talking about fat for fuel, although when we're doing these events, that's the main reason. But part of the beauty of this is your liver is sort of like an alchemist, and it'll make the energy to meet the metabolic need. So while you were probably burning 80, 90, maybe 100% fat most of the time, I'm sure you were breaking down liver fat to produce ketones and glucose, because when you're fat adapted, your liver actually has a pathway to take the glycerol backbone of a triglyceride, so you're freeing up the free fatty acid for beta oxidation, and it'll make it into glucose to meet the metabolic needs. So you tap out your glycogen you might go through your intramuscular glycogen stores, but your liver glycogen stores, you probably didn't deplete those. You probably used some of it, but probably didn't deplete that, because I think a large amount of your glucose and ketone needs were probably being met just because your liver was just tuned up. And that's also why you get hungry, is like you turn on that machine for delivering all that internal energy. Once you stop, it takes about 30 minutes of signaling for it to ramp down. So you have this energy backup that I think you've seen that, right? Like when you train and all that, it's at least an hour and a half before you really feel like you need to eat something.
I like my food, but I usually have a good 45-minute drive home from wherever I finish a long run. So,
right,
and I don't eat during that.
Yep.
I might drink. I might eat the last bit of honey in my baggie, but I don't eat till I get home and putter around and check the mail, and then I eat.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Once you like how you felt after your marathon, you could have gone on if you needed to.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to, but I was ready to be done.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like,
could I have walked to get to, if I'd had to walk 3 miles to my hotel? Absolutely. Absolutely could have kept going.
Yeah.
I think I could have turned it into an ultra. I'd taken it out too hard, but I could have kept moving. We did keep moving the rest of the day. I mean, and I got up and took a walk.
Part of the reason you went was to catch up with an old friend. So you guys were doing stuff. You weren't just laying on the couch.
Yeah, we got up and walked to Starbucks the next morning. We walked out on the pier later in the day at the beach at some old, we kind of reminisced a little because we were driving through some areas where I'd grown up. And yeah, no, I mean, did I put my legs up and watch a movie with her? Yes. But we were, we didn't just sit. Of course, we had a lot of catching up to do.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah. Right? Oh, I'm in my wheelhouse, and I'm always looking for the next step. And right. Like I said, I was wondering if I'd already passed my best marathon, or if I had one more better one in me. I didn't know, and there was only one way to find out.
Yeah, and then you went from, as I say, you went from keto to beyond keto with OFM. And that's
right. Well, I tried keto once, full keto for Lent, and honestly, I noticed absolutely no difference in how I felt. But what I missed was my crunchy apple at lunchtime. Because to cut out those extra carbs, I had to give up some things. I had to reduce from about 80 to 100 carbs a day down to what, below 50. Well, the lunch apple had to go.
Yeah.
And I love my half a Pink Lady lunch apple every day. They're a huge apple in half, but they crunch and they're good. And I was like, I'm not sure I'm willing to give this up when I really saw no difference in anything else, except I really missed my lunch apple.
So has OFM helped you with knowing how to use carbs more strategically and enjoy enjoy them fully, but use them beneficially?
Yeah, I mean the apple's staying, but in terms of, what night I add potatoes, when I can. The parents on my running team found out my favorite candy is chocolate covered mints. So I got them. They bought me a whole box of them. But I know when I can have one of those and not mess up anything. And that's just, it's almost, I'm more relaxed.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, that's why I make a big deal in the program that chronic stress is as big a deal as too many carbs. I mean, just because of the physiology, the cortisol response and then what that does. And then, all of a sudden it's off to the races, right?
Right. But
right, so
and I can have a whole box of peppermint patties in the pantry and not eat them all in one sitting. I know that there are people who couldn't possibly do that. There are some things that maybe I wouldn't want to have in the pantry because I get carried away if it was sitting there. But I seem to be able to do that. I can enjoy a peppermint patty and just get on with my day.
Yeah.
And not freak out about it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is I'm sure you're like where I am now. It's like when you eat too much, you don't feel very good, or you eat the wrong things too often, you just feel good. And you kind of autocorrect, and it feels good to fast. It feels good when you do a run and you just feel like your body's just like tuned in and has that, okay, I'm just dialed in and I'm just not hungry, and go about your day.
Well, I think the thing for me with the fasting is, I think I mentioned I really like to eat, but if I go run errands and everything takes longer than I expected and I get home 2 hours later than I thought I was going to, and lunch didn't happen at the usual time, I'm fine.
Yep.
I feel fine. I might be a little hungry, but I'm not bonking. I'm not cranky. I'm not irritable. I'm not feeling panicky, like I've got to stop and get something to eat. It just happens. And you go an extra 2 hours, it's like, well, yeah, I'll enjoy lunch when I get home, but I have that like urgency that I've got to eat right this minute. And to have that go away, and it's been gone a while, but it's even better now. It's just, it takes another stressor off. And then you stop and buy the crap and you spend the money that you want to spend on the crap. And you come home and you fix yourself a decent lunch. And it's 2 hours later. So what?
Yeah. And meanwhile, you're having all that autophagy going on, which is really good for your body.
Right. So it's just, for me, it's just been another way that I can relax about things.
Yeah. I think that showing people you can run a lifetime PR 347, was it 346 marathon at the age of 63 and 64 chronologic age. Metabolic age is a different thing, and live life to the fullest. Because I mean, I look at your training, I talk to you about what you do, and you're living this wonderful life, and once you're in this metabolic state, it's like you have to be using an app or following a diet or anything. You just kind of live, right?
Well, I think maybe the thing that says it all is about 3.5 years ago, I invited myself to join my youngest daughter and her friend on the rim to rim hike in Grand Canyon. What's that, 24 miles?
Yep.
And they said I could come, and I didn't train for it. I didn't do anything special for that trip. I never worried I wouldn't finish. I might have worried that I would slow the girls down, and they didn't complain, bless their hearts. But it never even occurred to me that I could not finish that hike. And I think that's a great place to be.
Yep.
And I want to stay there as long as I can. I might be slower, but I never even had a moment of fear about it. I just packed up my stuff and went.